Hi again, everyone. Welcome to our introduction regarding the physiological function of the macronutrients in the body. Again, we're going to start with alcohol because it really doesn't have a physiological function in our bodies. Of course, it gets people drunk, causes inebriation in mammals. It also provides energy, of course, 7 calories per gram. Probably more useful, though, in the context of life in general. Alcohol is actually a product of anaerobic respiration in yeast. So it's a way that yeast try to stay alive. And I guess in some ways, as humans, we may get to benefit from that. Carbohydrates, of course, have more functions than alcohol. They do provide energy, just like alcohol. 4 calories per gram, unlike alcohol. They also store energy. Our body doesn't store energy in the form of alcohol for obvious reasons, but our body does store energy in the form of glycogen. And then plants store energy in the form of starches that we also digest. Carbohydrates are also the building blocks for other compounds. Ribose in particular, guys, is critical for nucleic acid synthesis. So DNA, remember ribose is part of DNA. So if we don't have that deoxyribose part of DNA, we do not have DNA. And then also carbohydrates are used to modify proteins and fats in a process called glycosylation. So this actually increases protein stability, and it also allows for cell adhesion. So carbohydrates do a variety of different things in the body. Perhaps most obviously, it's the storing of energy, but maybe more importantly, it's the building of material for other compounds, in particular DNA. Proteins provide the same amount of energy as carbohydrates at 4 calories per gram. Again, we need to consume protein because there's 9 essential amino acids that our bodies cannot make that we need to consume from the body. Proteins in the body, I can't list all of the functions they do because proteins are involved in basically everything. Remember that our genes encode for RNA sequences that encode for proteins. So in other words, your genetic code decides what proteins you have, which determines basically everything about you, including how you look, how you think, how you move, etc. So we're not going to be talking about really the shape of specific proteins in general. Rather, we'll focus more on amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. Fats within the body, they provide the most energy and they store energy. So for context, and again, we'll talk about this in more depth later on, in carbohydrates, we store, if we're being active, maybe 1 to 2 hours of carbohydrates in the body as far as stored. But in stored fat supply, we have weeks as far as energy of stored fat we can use. So fat is a much, much more efficient way of storing energy than carbohydrates. The caveat to storing fat instead of carbohydrates is that carbohydrates are much more easily to mobilize than fats, which is why carbohydrates are the more immediate source of energy and not fats, even though fats actually are better storage of energy. Fats make up cell membranes. This is important for a lot of reasons. So the phospholipid bilayer, it allows for neurotransmission, allows for cells and life to exist in general. Fats also surround and protect key organs in our abdomen, and they're important signaling molecules. So if you're low in fat, you might not have correct testosterone or estrogen signaling.